This conference will now be recorded.
Well, very good morning. Morning. Any questions on IIM? So, no questions. So, what's the difference between policies versus roles? What is the policy? Permission? Permissions, which are added to users. Okay. Services. Roles are assigned to the entities, not the services. Roles are used to control the permissions of the entities. Well, and so what are inline policies? Yes, customized policies. Well, anyway, let's anyone. So try those scenarios are given. No. So no one. At least you remember the scenarios. Remember the scenarios? No.
Sorry, what was your question?
One second. Well, so that's why I start at least 5 minutes late. Today we are started 2 minutes early. Okay. Well, anyway. So yeah. Any questions on last session? IAM roles and policies. No questions. Okay. So let's start with RDS. So RDS is for database purpose. So far we have gone through how to create our infrastructure as a platform. That means instances and their permissions, so policies, and so now today we're going to look into platform as a service, which is database. So usually whenever you want to create a database, so you need a server first, right? Once you have a server, then you install your database engine on it. Let's say MySQL or Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server. You install that and then you start using the database, right? So that is what you do usually. So let's go with, okay. You set up server first, and once you have a server or an instance, and then you just go with install the database engine. Okay, and then thereafter we create database. So that's our database. Now this is the usual process. Now what are the drawbacks with this? So the first thing is here we talk about the servers. So since we have server, then we have server maintenance, and moreover we have installations, right? So this is what is the drawback with the traditional process. So set up your servers first, install databases, then create a database. Fine. So in this process, we have drawbacks like maintenance is a drawback, server maintenance, and then backups, and then also installation process. And if you have any issues like database has some performance issues, right? So these are the issues. But how do you handle these issues? Is there any solution for this? Yes, there is a solution. The solution is so no servers, no installations. Simply, I want to create a database. Okay, so no servers, no installations. I want to create a database. Okay, how does it work? Okay. Well, so now I'm going to use a service called RDS service, Relational Database Service, which helps us to create the databases. I go with RDS. And then, so there you have. So simply you create a database. When you click on create database, so here it is going to give you the options. Okay. So what are the database engines you want to create? Okay. Just a second. I want to go to first create this. Yeah. So this is your database platforms. So what are the different database platforms, whatever they provide? One second, it's loading. Now here you can see that platforms, engines, database engines. So we have Amazon Aurora, Microsoft SQL Server, MariaDB, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, and then PostgreSQL. You select your database engine. Simply you select it. For example, I go with Oracle, then and editions of Oracle, select it and go with next. And then you follow the steps to create a database. Now in this example, so we don't have any instances or servers plus no installations. That means they are providing this particular database platform which is required, and they provide the platform which is ready to use. So which platform? Your database platform. So what is the advantage then? What's the advantage with this platform as service? Like we have seen another example, platform as a service. What is that? Beanstack, right? So do they provide the platforms? Yeah. Yeah, they provide the platform, but do I install the platforms? No. Yeah, auto scaling. That's another concept. It's all inbuilt. So majorly for platform services, all these concepts like load balancing, auto scaling, these are inbuilt concepts. You don't need to again manage that load balancing, auto scaling for this. The same thing works for database as well. Okay, but let's see how it works. Okay, and when you go with the next step, now here you have a concept called multi-AZ deployment. So that is what is your auto scaling. We talk about it. Okay. Anyway, so first let's see how we create the databases, and then what are the things will be taken care by the AWS. Okay, let's talk about it. Now initially I want to create a database. Let's say that is my database. So what do we do? I'll just select my RDS service. I create my database platform. So what is the platform? Let's say this is Oracle platform. Okay, and this is your database. That's my database. So whenever you create a database, and in these steps, while you create a database, in these steps, it is also going to ask us create an instance. I'm creating an instance. But what instance is this? Is it EC2 instance? No, that's not EC2 instance. Okay. This instance is a database instance. That's a database instance, which we don't have access to log into it because we can't even see the instance. So you're creating a database, that is correct, but the database is installed on an instance. So, but that instance, we don't have access to it. That is for AWS purpose. Okay, but so first you create an instance. In the process of creating database, you select the instance type, or you create an instance, and automatically on that instance, let's say I'm selecting something like some medium instance, T3.medium instance. That's my instance type. On this instance type, so you'll be installing Oracle database. That means we don't install it, but the AWS will take care of it. Okay. So then Oracle database, that will be installed. So now once it is installed, and for every Oracle, every database, there is an endpoint. What is that endpoint? We can say which is your access point. That's our access point. Nothing but the URL. Okay, the access point or the URL. So this URL will be providing to the users. That means developers or testers, whoever they are, we provide the URL. And then the users so get the URL and start logging into the database. They log into the database, and then so they start inserting some data, and then do some data operations on the database. So that is how it works. That's a basic idea. But what if? So my instance or database is crashed. Right? My database is crashed. That means instance itself is crashed. Then how are we going to manage that? Now, so there comes you have so auto scaling concept. So what is auto scaling concept? Whenever so your original database is crashed, then the backup database which runs automatically, that's your backup. You say that is a backup, and this backup database always in sync with the original database. That's in sync. So whatever the data you push it or you do some operations on the original data, and that data changes will be applied on the backup. Okay, so that is your backup database. That's my backup. But who is going to maintain the backup? So do I need to maintain the backups manually? That's not even required. These are backups maintained by the, again, AWS. So we don't need to manage the backups. We don't load the backups. For example, let's say in usual cases, if your database is crashed, let's say my database is not running anymore, then what do? So whatever the backup you have been maintaining, take the backup, restore the backup. But here we do nothing. So if this instance is crashed or if your database is crashed, so you just simply still access the database, but from the backup. So that will be automatically loaded. The backup will be loaded automatically. You don't need to load it manually. So what is this called? This concept is what we call multi-AZ deployment. Multi-availability zone deployment. So why do they call it multi-availability zone deployment? So usually, if I'm creating my original database on 1A zone, and your backup database will be running on another zone. That means even the whole availability zone itself is crashed, then you don't need to worry. You have your backup maintained on another availability zone. That is what is multi-AZ deployment. That's an important concept, multi-availability zone deployment. But again, so this is not our task. So whenever you select your database type as multi-AZ deployment database type, like I have shown you. So for example, I'm creating a database, and so there you have option called, one second, select some database, and then in the next step, there is your multi-AZ deployment. So is the concept clear? What is multi-AZ deployment? So if the particular availability zone where your database is created, so if the availability zone is down, or instance is down, or even database is down, then you will be accessing your database from the another availability zone automatically. Okay, so that is what is multi-AZ deployment. And always your original database so will be in sync with your backup database. That also happens automatically. So since AWS takes care of all these things, AWS charges huge amount. So if you don't go with multi-AZ deployment, you can save almost like 50 to 60% of the cost. For example, I'm creating my database. If they charge me $1,000, if I don't go with $1,000 per month, if I don't go with multi-AZ deployment, you can save at least like $500 to $600. So that is expensive. Since this is expensive, so we use this concept for production purpose. So we don't use it for non-production. We can still use it, that's your choice, but that is expensive. So 50 to 60% of the cost you will be spending only for the multi-AZ deployment concept. So I don't recommend it. That means no one recommends it. I mean, for non-production, we don't recommend it. For production, yes, this is very, very useful concept for production. If this is your production database, yes, this is very useful. Okay, well. But what if I'm maintaining, this is for production, right? So multi-AZ concept is for production purpose. So there you can see that. So that's why we call it production. Okay. Then what if it is a dev test? I'm using my database for non-production purpose. Then if I'm using for non-production purpose, then don't I maintain the backups? Still we maintain the backups, but that is we do it manually. Okay, we take care of the backups and restorations, all these ones we maintain it manually. Okay, how it is done. Now here we talk about the manual backups. So what we call these manual backups, so we call them snapshots. So there you have option called snapshots. So snapshot means this is not for volume snapshots. We are talking about in terms of database. Okay. Now, so let's say I have a non-production database. This is my non-production database. If this is a non-production database, then you maintain the backups manually. So those are what we call snapshots. We call them snapshots. So manually means you have two options again. One is you can schedule the backups. So these are, I can schedule the snapshots. Okay. So or else I can take instant backups. So you can schedule them, or you can also, so instant backups. What do you mean instant backup? Click on the backup now, then your database will be taken a backup. Okay, but so then in this case, if this database is not running anymore, this is down, then what do? So we have some users, they still want to access the database. Okay, then so how can we access the database now? I cannot do it because my database is down. Then how do we access the database? Can we do it? So we have backups, we have snapshots. So what is the purpose of backups, snapshots? If your actual database is crashed, then you can load it again. You can restore it. So once this is restored, then your data will be again up and running. You can access the database. Okay, clear? So this is how the restorations or snapshots works. So I'm just explaining all the concepts in terms of production, in terms of non-production. Then if this is a production, let's say I'm going, this is my production database, but I'm not going with multi-AZ deployment. Then we follow this process. But this process is a manual process, so it takes some time to restore the database. That's why. So better for production, you opt for multi-AZ deployment. That's a good choice. Anyway. So let's take about more examples. So we have some users. So usually, let's say these are the users, and they want to access my database, about 3,000 users. But more number of users want to access the database. But my instance of my database can process about 3,000 requests per second. But now we have about 7,000. Right. So then how we handle this kind of scenarios? So scaling, yes, kind of scaling concept. But here we are talking in terms of database. How the scaling happens then? So what I'm going to do, so look at these 3,000 users. These 3,000 users, so might be writing some data onto the database. They're doing some write operations. So what do you mean by write operations? They're inserting some data into the database. Okay, they're doing some write operations on the database. But how about the rest of the users? These all users are doing only read operations on the database. They're doing read operations. So what do you mean by read operations? So they're simply fetching the data from the database. They're not inserting the data, so they're fetching the data. So now, why my database has a performance issue is because of these 3,000 users, they're inserting a lot of data. So as usual, insert data or write operations takes a lot of time. So for this reason, I don't want these users, it means users, those who are reading the data, I don't want them to wait. Are we clear? Then what do we do? So the users, those who are waiting to read the data, I allow them to read the data from a read replica. Now I'm going to create a read replica for my database. Let's say this is my read replica. So this read replica helps us to access the data from the database, but this read replica is only accepts the read operations. Those who are trying to read the data, I'm going to provide this URL for the read users. If these users are trying to write the data onto this read replica, can they do write operations on this? No, because this is write protected. So why this is write protected? I don't want allow any users to do any write operations. So in this way, the users, those who are reading the data, can read the data from the read replica in a faster manner. Okay, well, so other users, those who are writing the data, as usual, they can access the database, original database. Okay, so this is the advantage of read replicas. And this is one question, how we can improve the performance of a database. That's one point. Now, see, there are few interviews, very few, probably about 10% or 15%. They may ask you questions on databases, but not like commands, not database commands. So this is a kind of frequently asked question. How a database performance can be improved. So whether you have database, so on your local servers or on cloud, this is a concept we follow. So if you want to improve the database performance, so we create read replicas. That's one point. And other thing is, so this is the second point is, one second, let's make a note of these points. So it's important. So read replicas. And second is you create indexes. So this is all database things, but just an idea purpose, indexes. Okay, call them indexes. Yeah. So what are these indexes? So see, this is like what we call, in simple example. So if, even for books, we have index page, right? So what does it? What does it do? So based upon the index, and you can easily get the go to the particular page, and you can fetch the data. The same kind of thing. We can create indexes. So if you have different data, and then we create an index page, we call them index. I'm sorry. So based upon the index, your database will be forwarded to particular database tables. That's an index concept. Okay, but that is all database thing. But this is an other option how we can improve the database performance. We can go with read replicas. Yeah, of course you can. Why not? Yeah. So yeah, we can create read replicas and we can create indexes. Okay, good. So, but this is your database indexes is for database things. If you have some knowledge towards databases, so that is database things, but we don't deal with it, but that's an option. Okay, make that in mind, keep that in mind. Now, what we're going to now, we're going to create databases and also try this multi-user deployment option. And then, so we create read replicas. Also, we'll see how to create snapshots. Okay, let's back to this. So the service name is RDS. We already in RDS. Simply go with, that's your dashboard. So here you create a database, or you can create a database from this page, databases, and then database. So select the databases. I mean, what is your database engine? Let me select first Oracle. Now, when you create databases, so some of the databases like Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, these are not free editions. These are paid editions, right? These are not free editions. These are paid editions. If there is a paid edition, how do I pay the amount? That means license. I mean, I'm talking about license. So you have two options. You can buy the license from RDS itself, or else you can go to the particular Oracle website or Microsoft website. You can pay for the license, get the license number, and that license number you can enter over here. So you have two options. Now let me select first go with Oracle and select some edition, edition 1, and there it is. You have production purpose or non-production purpose. Production, we call it multi-user deployment. Non-production, this is non-production, and especially for development and testing purpose. Next, and then the first option you see here is license model. So what is that? Bring your own license. So you need to buy the license from outside. So they don't provide the option for this edition. What is the edition we are going with? Edition is standard edition 1. But for the same, just cancel it, go with the previous step, Oracle, and select some other edition. For some editions, the third option is you can license included. You can include the license. That means you want to buy the license from this RDS. Okay. So when I go with license included, click on the license included and scroll down. The cost is $14 per month. And then if you go with bring your own license, it is $12.46. So that means for the previous option, they have included license cost as well here. Okay. So now there are other type of databases like MySQL. So this is an free tier edition. That means you don't need to buy any license. We call them open source. Now, so go with next. Now you have production, non-production. You also have production MySQL. So in what cases we use it? So we use this for, what is that option? Version DevOps. So it is, we have two options over here. One is multi-easy deployment. Other one is you can also select your, what is that? Provision DevOps. Hope you remember what is provision DevOps. But that's what I said. When I go with, when we are talking about volume types, so we go with the provision volumes types, especially for databases. That's really important. Okay. Well, anyway, let's go with next. And what is the license model is? General public license, which is open source. You don't need to pay for the license. MySQL is open source. Well, now let's talk about these settings. Anyway, I'm going to create MySQL. Those who are interested, and if you have enough money, you can create Oracle or whatever. But look at that cost. It is $12.56, right? So that is still, that is very huge amount. I want to reduce the cost. How do we do that? Let's talk about that. So we go through all these settings and then we'll see how can we save the cost. The first is license. It's open source license. Then your database model. That means version. This is the database version. Select any version. Then DB instance class. This is your database instance. So like I said, so we create the instances, but these instances are not EC2 instances. These are your RDS instances, but we cannot do SSH. We cannot even see the instances. So these are the instances. First, select your instance settings. Okay, instance type. Now, so in most of the cases, for databases purpose, you go with at least, so this concept, at least this minimum, this configuration, like 4 with virtual CPUs and 32 GB RAM. That's minimum configuration for databases. So because we're going with production database. So for non-production, so you can manage that. That's not a problem. For production, that is the minimum configuration. Okay, so minimum configuration. But I go with, can I go with T2.micro still? Yeah, there is option, but don't do this for production purpose. For non-production, if you have small databases, you can go with this T2.micro instance. See, your instance performance also depends on, your database performance also depends on number of CPUs. How do we decide the number of CPUs? Based upon the instance class, instance type. Okay, that is also another point. Anyway, if you want to add that point, so to the third point, you can do it. So on instance configurations. Okay. So, and then multi-easy deployment. So create a replica in different zones. So you go with multi-easy deployment, you don't want to go with select it. And then storage type, there it is. Is it like general purpose or provision DevOps? Now, just look at here. So let's select first general provision DevOps. If I select provision DevOps, 897, the cost, and change it to general purpose. So that is the importance of IOPS. So this is like nothing, $40. But when you go with provision DevOps, so you pay a lot of money for this. Provision DevOps is always expensive because the whole database performance depends upon your IVOPs, number of IVOPs. That also comes under your configurations, instant configurations. But specifically if they ask you, so go with IVOPs. So that is a third point, how your database performance can be improved based upon the volume types. And if instance or if the volumes have high IVOPs, then the database performance obviously is more performance, good performance. So now go with this storage type, general purpose. You want to go with provision, so that's your choice, but preferred always provision, but I'm going with general purpose. So what if I go with general purpose and or any provision of whatever it is selected, then you select your storage. So what is my storage is, initially I'm going with 100 gigabyte. So it's 100. But so that might not be enough in the future. Right? That's not enough in the future. And what do we do? Increase the size. So the size, how do we increase the size? You don't need to increase it because there is another very interesting concept, storage auto scaling. So storage will be auto scaled, so up to 1000 gigabyte. So this is what exactly dedicated for us. In the future that is required, that may extend it up to 1000. Okay, that can be extended. Are we clear? So now, for what cost I will be paying? Will I be paying for 100 gigabyte or 1000 gigabyte? 100 only. So the rest of 900 CDs like 1000, that is a kind of so what we call, that's auto scaling. That means whenever you use it, you pay for it. You might be reserving it, but you are not using it. That's a concept of auto scaling. So even when you go with any type of auto scaling concept means, so whenever you have a new thing is created, new instance is created, then you pay for it. If you don't use it, you don't pay for it. That is the concept of auto scale. Okay, good. So next, enable auto scaling. So go with general purpose. General purpose also we have same. Even see, if you go with let's say 200 or 2000, 2000, 1000 is maximum because this is general purpose, right? It's 1000 maximum. Maximum threshold value is, oh, this is the one. 1 second. I go with 1500. Okay. So 1000 is repeated and 1500 is auto scaling. So it's 297. And if you go with let's say 10 gigabyte, it's 37. So there's not too much difference. Okay. The difference comes based upon the type of the storage. Okay. Well, so next is, and this value you can change it. Even if you change it to 100, does not make any difference. That is auto scale. Okay. And these are your instance settings, your database instance settings. And next is we have settings for the database. The first settings are for instance settings. Now these are your database settings. Okay. Well, so what is the database name you are creating? Give some database name, test database, and then so you want to log into the database. What is the username? That means master username or root username. The name is, let's give that name, and then password. Okay, let's make a note of it. That's the username. This happened to me many times. That's the reason I'm making a note of it. So capital. So let's say 1, 2, 3. That's my password. If you want to log in, you can log in. That's the password. Okay. So what is that? So password may not contain. Okay, @ is not allowed. Okay, remove that @. Fine. So this is the username. Oh, that's the username. And if you want to log into the database as an root user, that means admin user, that's the username password. Next. Then networks and securities. So in this network securities, we control who can access my database. But as of now, I go with only public access. But I want my database can be accessed only developer teams. I want my database to be accessed only by the testers. So I want to put some restrictions. Then, so there you have VPC concepts. I can restrict that. So this database can be accessed only by the particular set of team. So you can do it with the help of VPCs. So this VPCs, we'll talk about that in tomorrow's session. So for example, they say this is my database used by the developers, so VPCs, and this is my VPC used by the testers. You can select the particular VPC, that means your network, then database can be accessed by that team only. Okay, but leave it, I go with public access. Then and security groups, this is your VPC security groups. So let's create a new one. So we have security groups, right? You remember the security groups? Now, whether you want to create a new security group or you want to select any existing security groups, you can select the security groups. But how do you create the security groups? That's all about tomorrow's session. Let's go with that. Create a new one. Then, so database name. So what is the database name? Give some database name. And then, so special characters not allowed. TestDB, that's our database. And the port number of MySQL, it is 3306. And these are just parameters. That's the default ones. Go with that. And IAM DB authentication. So what is that? Anyone? Yeah. If this is enabled, then IAM users can manage my database. But unless until if they are provided that particular policy. If the policy is not assigned, of course they can't even use my RDS. But even though if, let's say for example, there is user one, that user one I have given access called, so RDS read access. Then that user can see this database. So that is also possible. But so next, go with this is not enabled. Backup, yeah, this is the backup. So you want to take manual backups now. These are the backups. So how frequently you want to take a backup? 7 days. But what time that is? Select the backup window. What time? Select some time. Okay, let's say 1:30 a.m. 1:30. So, and then how long it might take? About 1 hour. So for every 7 days, let's say today is Sunday, and every Sunday, so I want to take a database backup at 1:30 a.m. That's the duration. And this is your monitoring. I think you understand what is the monitoring means. So you want to like monitor your database instance performance. How many read operations are doing? How many write operations? So how many number of requests are processing? You can see all of them using so monitoring. You can see that. And the log experts, you want to see the logs. So error logs and then general logs. If there are any slow, for example, there are users, they're trying to run some database queries, but that query is taking too long. So that will be recorded in the logs. I want to maintain all the logs. Okay, but that is slow query logs. And then what else? This is the maintenance. So the previous one was, this is for backup, and this is a backup window, the time, and this is regarding the maintenance. So this is maintenance window. What is maintenance then? Maintenance means, so the version I have selected for MySQL is 8.02. But in the future, I have a new version upgrade. New version needs to be upgraded. to the database. Then go with that, enable auto upgrade of the versions. I want my database versions automatically upgraded. So auto upgrade. But when do you want to upgrade that? Those ones. Select the window. So I want to do it on Sunday. And what is the time we have selected for backup? Sunday 1:30, right? Okay. I want to maintain that. I want to do the maintenance at 3 o'clock. And your backup time, your maintenance time, both should not be same. So there will be a clash. So what I'm trying to do, first I'm trying to take my database backup. Once database is been backed up, then I'm upgrading my database. That means versions of the database. Okay. So why I'm taking a backup first? Because while you upgrade it, so there might be chances that there will be some version conflicts that might happen. So that is the reason I'm taking a backup just in case first, then I'm doing a maintenance. But maintenance is not a regular routine, so that's very like unusual. And create production. So if you enable this, database cannot be deleted. Okay. If you disable it, database can be deleted. So you cannot delete database, but sorry. My database, I don't want anyone to delete my database. So I just enable that. Enable it. It's create database. Now it is creating. So it will take a while to create the database. So new database. And then this is my go to databases first. Okay, this is my database instance, test database instance. That's instance name. We are under instances, databases. That's my database. And then status is creating, and you can see that networking, and then availability zones, and then you have security groups. There you have public access is enabled, and these are your security groups. So they'll be created soon. And replicas, these are the replicas. Okay. Well, and then monitoring, you can see the monitoring logs, SIP utilization, DB connections. So you see that how the SIP utilization at the free storage. So memory storage, we know these ones, right? Read and write operations. Next, logs and events. You can see the logs over here. If you have any logs and you want to create some CloudWatch alarm, you can create also a CloudWatch alarm. Okay. And you want to send notifications, and then send some notifications to, and send that ARN name, and then SNS name, notification, and then metric, average. Now here you have server database capacity. Now you have a new metric while you create alarm, which is server database capacity. Okay. And then as usual, you have CPU utilizations, and then anything else we see, replica log. The rest of them are almost like same. These are the ones. Okay. Yeah. So then, but what we prefer is mostly we go with based upon write operations. If you have more number of write operations, then you can go with sending some alarms. Now just set up some how much count per second. Okay. So I would go with, let's say, 1000 counts per second. Okay. If it is more than 1000, then evolution period. So that means consecutively this happens 2 times in last 5 minutes. Then name of the alarm, create alarm. So this is again we are creating alarms for the databases. So in EC2, we have created also alarms, but that's for EC2 purpose. Now we are creating alarms for databases purpose. Alarms can be created for various different purposes. Well, and then the configurations, the instance classes, all these ones, and then the maintenance and the backup. The backup window. And so what is a snapshot? A snapshot is an instant backup. If I want to take a backup, we can take instant backups. Anyway, so now how do we connect to it? Connectivity. So we are waiting for the endpoint. Once endpoint is given, then we can log into the database. Okay. But what kind of database this is? This is MySQL database, right? Since this is MySQL database, I want to connect from my local system. So just like when you create EC2 instance, how do you connect to it? How do you do SSH? Using PuTTY. The same way, I want to log into my database now from my local system. How do we do it? Since this is MySQL server has MySQL Workbench. MySQL Workbench, from where I can log into the database. Okay, so you can download the MySQL Workbench. So here you can download that. So you can download here and then install it. So very simple step, download it, install it, and then you can have MySQL Workbench. Okay. So go with MySQL Workbench. In MySQL Workbench, just like this is like a PuTTY tool for remote connecting purpose. It's opening. And then you go with edit, not edit, file, and then where is that? So I think databases, and connect to database. When you connect to database and you enter the endpoint. So where is the endpoint? On the database. That's the endpoint. Endpoint is not yet created, waiting for the endpoint to be created. That's the endpoint. And using this endpoint, we can log into the database. But I think my database is not ready yet. I think so. I can show you this from the databases. I'm waiting for the status actually. The status is modifying status. It has to be ready status. Otherwise, we won't be able to connect it. So let me give it a try. Just copy that and just enter the endpoint. That's the endpoint. And then the default port number for MySQL is 3306, and username is, that's a username, capital. And the password. So password, click on that store in vault, and then just open it. That's a password. Okay, and then will I be able to connect? Let's see. The status, I'm just worried about the status. Yeah, I think we are able to connect it. So what was the database name? Test database. Now we have the database. Okay. Simply, for example, I want to use the database. Use, that's a command. Let's go with use testdb. Now we are in test database. Then, as usual, if you are a developer or if you have some knowledge towards the creating tables or insert some data, you can do it as usual. Okay. So anyone, any command, anyone knows any command, MySQL commands, how to create database? Sorry, table. Create table name. What is that? You have error in SQL syntax. The syntax was incorrect. Okay, you try that. Sorry. It's always selected, right? Is it not selected? You try that. Must have at least one column. I don't know these commands. You try that. Okay. So you go just Google it and you try that. Anyway. So we are connected to the database. And why I was able to connect to the database? Because of its public access. So even if you, since you know my URL and also you know my username password, you can also do it. This is like SSH from everywhere, the same thing. Okay. But I want to restrict that. Yes, you can do it. That's why we have VPC concepts. We have VPCs. How do you restrict them? We'll talk about that in tomorrow's session. When we go with VPCs and restrictions and permissions controls, we'll talk about that in VPC concept anyway. But so going with first, back to the databases. Now, this is still modifying, let it be. And then, so going with snapshots. And I want to take a snapshot. You can take and create a snapshot. Take a snapshot. You don't appear to have any databases instances. That means, see, that's what I said. You cannot do anything on the database unless the database status is ready. So it has to be ready. Then we can create snapshots. We can do anything. We can create replicas. So what is the purpose of a snapshot? Backups. Any other purpose?
Change the region.
Right. So just like we have backups of volumes. Okay. Whenever you have volume backups, so what is the purpose? Volume backup, or you have AMIs, images. You can copy those snapshots or images into different regions. Okay. But so now this one question from this example. So for example, I have EC2 instance or else I have a database. Okay. Now my database is not running or else my EC2 instance is not running at all. I'm trying to start it, but somehow it is going offline again. Right. Then how do you access the instance? Or how do you access your database? I want to still have my database up and running. How to do it? Tell me the solutions for this. My database is down. Okay. So since we are talking about databases, let's talk in terms of databases. My database is down. Whenever I'm trying to log in to the database using endpoint, I'm not able to do it. Now tell me, how do you resolve these issues? Firstly, check that whether you have been given permission to do it first. That's the first thing. And secondly, backups. Yes, check the database status first. Okay. So check the database status. The database status is, when I check the status, it is not running. I'm trying to start the database. How do you start that? Go to databases and then action. So you have actions. So you have stop or else you have start. Since it is running, I can stop it. If this is stop, I can start it. Okay. Now I have started this. But again, it is going offline. I'm not able to take it online. Then what is the next thing you do? The first thing was check the permissions. Actually, the first thing is check the database status first. Second thing is whether you have the permissions. Next, what else? Okay, you're trying to start it. You're trying to start it, but it's going offline. It's happening again and again. What's next? What do you do in that case? The database is offline. What do? You won't have your database up and running. Backup? Okay. So you have a backup? Okay. If you have a backup, then what do? You go with restore it. Okay. Since we don't have one, but in the actions, you can see that restore from the backups. Okay. Okay. We'll be restoring it. Then, but what if I don't have a backup? I don't even have a backup. See, you don't have a backup, but you have a database or not? So what do? You just go with database and then take a snapshot. You take the snapshot first, and once you take a snapshot, you copy that snapshot into the different other region. So, and the question also can be twisted. So how many zones we have? Let's say we have all 3 availability zones. Since we are in Mumbai, we have 3 availability zones. All my zones are down. Then how do you access your database? The same way. Yes. Snapshot, copy. If you don't have a snapshot, take a snapshot, copy the snapshot. But if you have a snapshot already, you just copy that into other regions. Okay. Good. Now, what is my status? So this is like still modified. It takes time. This is available. So now let's see, how do I take a snapshot for this? So very simple, just select it, actions, and then take a snapshot, or else you go to the snapshots. From here, you can take a snapshot. It's not available yet. Just refresh. Here it has to give you the options of different databases. 1 second. So it is going to give you the list of database instances. So snapshots, there it is. We have only one database instance. So select the database and then the snapshot name, press database snapshot. Snapshot, just give a name. Just give a name, snapshot. Right. So it is in progress, and this is also will take some time. Now you check your database instance and look at the status. Status is backing up. Okay. But now again the same thing. So we just need to keep wait. Nothing else we can do. It's backing up. The same way you want to create read replicas, actions, and then create a read replica. But I cannot create a read replica because my instance status is backing up. You can take a snapshot or you can create a read replicas only if the status is available. So even if I do it, it will take some time. But anyway, this is like, so creating a new instance again. So you're taking a you're creating a read replica, nothing but you're creating another database instance. Okay, but that database instance only has read permissions, not write permissions. But so select the database instance type as usual, and then is it multi-AZ deployment? I don't want to go with multi-AZ deployment, and storage classes, and then networks, whether you want to go with public or particular VPCs, you can go with the restrictions. Public, go with public, and then so security groups, leave that, and then encryption. Now there it is. You have read replica, and then name test DB read replica, and database options, the default port number, and IMDb authentication. Everything is same. Log experts. You want to save the logs. Okay, and then maintenance. So go with all these ones, and then create replica. I don't think so we'll be able to do it. Let's see. So we won't be able to do it unless status has to be available. Okay, wait for it. So it's backing up. Yeah, it's available. I think we'll be able to create a read replica, but before that, snapshots, and there is your snapshot that's available. Anyway, back to the databases. Yeah. Sorry. That's why we are taking a regular snapshots, right? We have scheduled snapshots. So we set up some scheduling, right? So we are taking backups, snapshots every Sunday. Okay. So if you don't want this, you can go with multi-AZ deployment. If you go with multi-AZ deployment, you don't need to take these backups every time. But now go with again, create a read replica, actions, read replica. So database name, and then your read replica name, test DB read replica, and then so everything is same, and DB instance class, standard instance, okay, something like. Okay, go with all the settings are same. Storage, availability zone, okay, and connectivity, go with public, and then every setting is same. Are we creating read replica? Yes. Now create a read replica. Now this is great. So it's a read replica, but this is also an instance. Now you can see that under instances, we are in instances. You can see the instance, and there is your replica. When it's a replica, means this is not a copy. This is a read replica. Okay, copy. The actual copy is what we call a snapshot, but this is a read replica. Now it is modifying. Again, the same thing. It has to create a read replica. Will take some time. Even for read replicas, just like your actual instances, they have all the settings same as your actual instances. So they have endpoints, okay, and also they have all the settings same. Okay. So now back to the snapshot. Let this read replica be created. Anyway, now snapshot. We have a snapshot. This snapshot, what we can do, we can go to actions and then copy snapshot. Okay. So copy to other regions. Right? So do you remember the snapshots we have seen in volumes? So we have copied the snapshots to other regions. The same concept we also have in database snapshots. Okay. So which region you want to copy? Select the region. and then name test DB, and then so target group, we have no target groups anyway. So just scroll down and then copy snapshot. Copy snapshot is also a time-taking process. So it's copying, let it be copied. But so database might take few minutes to launch. Snapping, okay, copy that, let it be copied. And then, so in the same actions, you have shared snapshot. So tell me the difference between copy versus share. By looking at the options, tell me the difference.
Share, it will be in the same region, and you'll share it to another AWS account, and that person will be able to access it. Whereas copying it, you're completely moving it across, and then they can access it in that particular region.
So copy means just copy, not moving. So copy means you have the copy existing in the actual region, but you're creating another copy of it in other regions, but on your account, on the same account. So now this is my account. I'm copying that to the other region into my account. But you have other AWS account, and then you want to access my database. I can go with your account ID and then go with so private. So we have seen this concept, right? Where did we see this concept? Images. Images. So can we share the snapshot to the volume snapshot? Can we share it to other accounts? Anyone? Have you tried it? Volumes, can it be shared to other accounts? Images, we can do it, of course. Images can be done. A snapshot, I don't think so. We are able to do the snapshot. Volumes snapshot, I'm talking about. I don't think so. We'll be able to do it, but we can try that. But I don't think so. Okay. But database snapshots and then images, we can do it. Okay. So, and the difference between public versus private. Public means you don't need to have any account ID. Even for example, you have AWS account and you can access my snapshot. Okay, I don't need any account. But if you want to go with private and for particular account, you can go with account. Okay. But and that's copying, then it be copied. Go with the database. This is a read replica. Where do we see the read replicas? So in instances itself, in the databases. Yeah, there is read replica. I think it's still creating. Okay, that's fine. And then, so this is my database running with MySQL server, right? What is my database engine? MySQL. I want to migrate to other database engine. So select it, and you have actions. Where is that migrate option? There should be a migrate option over here. Snapshot, is it snapshots? Just a second. Migrate. Okay, so you have migrate, but what is the status of it? It's available. Just a second. Actions migrate is not there. Why this is not enabled? This is a snapshot, right? Did I do any changes? You can migrate that, but just a second. But you can migrate that to only is it because of this reason? Okay, so the reason is Are we creating a read replica? Okay, I think we are copying the snapshot, right? Since we are copying a snapshot, I think that's the reason that option is disabled. Well, let me see whether is it copied. To which region we are copying to? Yes, East 1. So snapshots. Is it still copying? Not Virginia. It's completed. Snapshots. I just copied that in the past. Okay, fine. So this is copied. So take it, and then why that migrate is not enabled? So we can migrate it, but is it because of no, that's read replica, but not for this. We are not getting for this, right? One second. So that could be because of I've selected my instance type was t2.micro. Could be that reason. Okay. So because of the instance type, I guess that's a reason. And also, yeah, that could be a reason. Yeah. So I think that is the reason. So because we have selected instance type as t2.micro instance type, that's the reason it's not allowing us to migrate. But so in this case, migration, you can migrate that to only MySQL, sorry, Amazon SQL. So what is the database type we have created, which is our MySQL, and then you can migrate that to only to Amazon SQL Server. So go to dashboard and then create a database. Then you have Amazon SQL. This is, we call it Amazon SQL actually. Amazon MySQL. So why we can migrate our MySQL database to Amazon? The reason is Amazon is also using MySQL as in their database in the backend. That is the reason we can migrate it. But you cannot migrate that to other databases like Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle. That's not possible because Amazon Aurora also using the same database as MySQL in the background. That's the reason we can migrate. Otherwise, so you cannot migrate that MySQL to Microsoft and then Oracle. That's not possible. And that's regarding that migration part. And you can try that. I think so. I'm not able to do it because of that reason. I think so. 1 second. Maybe because of my instance type. Yeah, I think so. That is correct. That's because of the reason. That reason. I think that's because of t2.micro instance. But there are some limitations for that. And then what else we have? Service. Query editor. The query editor is for again. So you want to run some query editors. So usually, how do you run the editors? How do you run the queries using your workbenches? Through workbench, you can run the queries. But I want to run the queries from the console itself. You can do it, but that is allowed only again for Amazon Aurora because that is their own database. They allow for that their databases only, not for other databases. But if you want to do it, So you see that only for Aurora databases, not for other purpose. Anyway, so you want to create Aurora database, you can create it. So yeah, then we have one more option back to the databases, and there you have select some database and go with restore point in time. So restore point in time. So it's like you're restoring your databases from the last backup you have. Okay. So select the restore latest backup you have. So what are the latest snapshot? We go with the latest snapshot when we have taken just about few minutes ago, and go with that option and then restore it. Okay. You don't need to go to the snapshot to restore it. So you can go with restore point in time. The restore point in time is going to select the latest snapshot. Or if you don't want to go with the latest snapshot, you have any other snapshot, you can select that through the custom, the date and time. Okay. So yeah, very simple thing. These are all like, so these are not actually and our responsibility. We are database administrator, DBA. Then, so these are all your tasks. So now even some of the projects you come across DBS, but I think the DBA role has been like almost like no more existing in the organizations. So very rare. So you don't have DBA role in the organizations now. So we used to have a lot of DBAs in the organizations. That was long ago, not now, about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. A lot of DBAs, database administrators. But as soon as the cloud has come into the picture, even I can do all these things, you can do them. But usually in the past, so these things were done by the DBAs, database administrators, because there was no cloud concept. Once after cloud has been introduced, you don't need any DBAs. Right? So even in some organizations, if you depend totally on the cloud, you don't even need any Linux administrator teams. You have again cloud admin teams. They can manage anything. So that is advantage of cloud actually. So this is one of the best advantages. Okay, well, and here you have reserved instances. As usual, you can go with the purchase a reserved database instance. I think we know reserved instances. You want to reserve your instance for certain time or period. You buy the instance, you select the instance types, and then you buy them. You can select it. So you can try that. Okay, if you want, you can try that. So it is taking time again. And so tomorrow's session is very important for us. So we'll be regarding VPCs. So the next 3 sessions are very important. We're going to discuss VPCs, auto scaling load balancing, and also the data DevOps services. Okay. Code commit, code deploy, code pipeline services. The next 3 sessions are very important, especially tomorrow's session. So without VPCs, you won't be able to create an instance at real time. So if you have that good knowledge with VPCs, then you will be able to create instances within the VPCs. I'll show you how exactly we get instances. See, so far we have been creating instances. So do you remember when we create instance? So go to EC2, and then in the third step, what is the third step when you create instance? When you launch instance, what is the third step? What is the first step regarding AMI? And second step is instance type. Third step is yes. So what is that? There you have networks and then VPCs. Right. So this is what we're going to discuss in tomorrow's session. And make sure you come up with fresh mind. If you don't understand those concepts, you miss everything. And don't be late. Of course, I will be starting around 8:35 to 8:40. Okay. So don't be late. If you miss the initial concepts, you miss the whole concept itself. And so in every interview, when you attend an interview, you'll be having definite questions on VPCs. And in fact, that is a first topic, a first service in your interviews. Once they touch the VPCs, then only they proceed with other type of services. If you're not good at VPCs, so, and that is a kind of a bad experience you might face in the interviews. Definitely at least about 3 to 4 questions on VPCs, definitely for sure. And even, so you'll be given kind of a scenarios. So in the interviews, so create a VPC. I want to create so-and-so VPC with some security groups, and then I want to create an instance in that VPC. How do you create that? But that you will be doing it not through the interfaces. You'll be doing it through the Terraform. But if you want to do it, first of all, if you want to do it through Terraform, you should be very good at understanding these concepts through the console. Because when you go to Terraform, so I'm not going to explain all these things in detail. That's not even possible. I straight away write some scripts in Terraform. You should be able to understand the concepts. So what is a VPC? What is a private public security groups? You should be able to understand automatically. Then only you will be able to understand the Terraform. Okay. But yeah, thank you. Any questions? So today's session, so it was a simple session. So it's because that was databases, and mostly you might expect questions on RDS services, but it's for idea purpose. It's a good practice to have an idea. Well, and you can try these scenarios on RDS. So create MySQL databases, and yeah, this is only one question you can expect. What is multi-AZ deployment? Otherwise, no too many questions. And you can try these options: license, and then read replicas, manual backups, restorations, snapshot, copy, and then share. Okay, so try that. But any questions? No? Mostly, see, that depends. We are not the deciders. So the decider is the client is the decider. And then if you have any other project managers, so if you have any business teams, they decide them. You don't decide it. So, but MySQL, why I have created MySQL is it's an open source free license. It is a non-licensed version. If you are interested, you can go with Oracle. If you want to create that, or MySQL, you can create it. Okay. The difference is only license is the difference. Otherwise, it's all same. Okay. Yeah, thank you.